Well, hello. So in this video, I would like to show you an example of how to find an inverse function and domain of that inverse function. So this problem is more is this problem will require more thinking than procedural, go step by step. So you need to think about the functions with their domain restrictions as you're writing their domain and ranges. Okay, let's go ahead and start to do it. So the given problem is, what if f of x is equal to -4 plus square root of x plus 1? Find the domain, assuming that f of x is 1 to 1, determine f inverse, and then determine the domain of the f inverse. So the question is in two parts. We're going to do the first part, but mainly doing the first part is stemming the ideas of the second part. So I suggest first rewrite the function again in a better form. Better, it means that it's easier to interpret. So this is the function. Okay, so we do have a square root function, so it might be coming from a quadratic function, right? And then remember, quadratic functions are not one-to-one. So if you're having an inverse of a quadratic function, we had to have a domain restriction for somehow. That's why it says here in bold, assuming that that's one-to-one. So we're going to assume that we're taking the certain part of the function. We cannot have the whole domain. So what I would suggest at this point, let's draw this function before just diving into finding the inverse. We're going to find the inverse, but let's just draw the function. What is it going to look like? And so just sketch, not draw. All right. So here's the transformation. Our transformation information comes in place here. So remember, square root of x, if it was a parent function, right, it looks like this. It's a plain old f of x is equal to square root of x function. So what's happening here in this function, we're taking that parent function one step left, right, 1 unit left because we have plus 1. And we're moving it 4 units down. So it's not going to be scaled, or I can change this. Let me do this. Okay, so it's 1 unit left and 4 here. So it will be like that, and that will be the given function f of x is equal to square root of x plus 1 minus 4. All right, I hope you agree with this drawing. What I was saying again, if I transform this square root of x function to 1 unit left and 4 units down, that's what I get. Now I'm trying to find the inverse of this function. Okay, now let's do the steps. What do? We write down y equals, now this is procedural, minus 4, switch x and y. Okay. Now solve for y. Okay, so we need to take the square root, both sides. All right, and then we, y. Okay, then y will be plus 1. Then y will be equal to x plus 4, quantity square minus 1. So f inverse of x will be equal to x plus 4 minus 1. Better way of writing. All right, we're done. We have answer part A. That's okay. So how is that shape that I have just drawn is going to help us? So by looking at the sketch, let's write down the f of x domain. What is the domain of f of x? It starts from -1 to infinity, right? So I can have -1 and it can go to positive infinity. What's the range of f of x? it starts from -4 included, and it goes to positive infinity. So that arc shows that it's going to stay at some point, but in the end, it will go to infinity. It will gradually increase, not exponentially. All right, so these purple ones are the domain and range of f of x. So now by looking at that, we can determine the domain of f inverse of x. So domain will be the range, -4, infinity. Range will be its domain, -1. Okay, so this is the correct answer for part A. This is the correct answer for this is part B, this is part A. So when we end up, this is the trick, when we end up f inverse of x is equal to x plus 4 quantity squared minus 1, we are so prone to write down, oh, that's going to look like a parabola. So the parabola left 4, down 1, right? So it might look like this, and domain will be -infinity to positive infinity. No, because I can only take one part of the parabola as domain and range to be able to have the inverse of the function. So that's what we wanted you to think. Okay, so be careful even if in the question it says that given that it's 1-to-1, how is it becoming 1-to-1? You need to look at the function, actual function here. Sketch this function by using your transformation knowledge from module 1. Okay, this is the parent function, f of x square root of x. I'm having here square root of x plus 1, 1 step left, 4 steps down. So this is my function that I want to find an inverse. Okay, this function has a domain -1 to infinity. This function has a range -4 to positive infinity. Then its domain and range will switch when I'm finding the inverse of it, and that's what it's going to be. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I don't think we're asking the range here. This is irrelevant, but this is the correct answer. All right, don't lose point on that. Hope this helps. See ya.